The gate does not open when it should. The driver checks the clock, then the mirror. The house sits beyond the iron bars, lights on, silent, waiting. The man in the back seat does not speak at first. He watches his daughter through the glass as she presses her forehead to the window, trying to see past the dark metal. A voice comes through the intercom. Polite, careful, wrong. They ask for identification. They ask him to wait. This is his home. His name is on the land. His daughter lives behind that gate. Still, the bars remain closed. He steps out onto the gravel. The cold comes up through his shoes. One of the guards rests a hand near his belt. Another looks past him toward the road, as if expecting trouble to arrive from somewhere else. The child opens the car door before anyone stops her. She stands beside him, small, quiet, holding his sleeve. He feels something tighten. Not anger yet, but the warning before it, the knowledge that whatever happens next will not stay contained. That once he moves, something will be lost that cannot be reclaimed. The gate hums, then goes silent again. Nothing opens. If you stay with this story, stay for what restraint costs and what force takes with it. The car slows before it stops. Gravel crunches under the tires, louder than it should be. The iron gate fills the windshield, taller up close, its bars close enough together that nothing slips through without permission. In the back seat, the man rests one hand on the door handle and the other on his knee. He does not lean forward. He waits for the familiar sound, the motor, the lift, the quiet opening that usually happens before the car fully stops. It doesn't come. The driver glances up at the rearview mirror, then back at the keypad mounted beside the gate. He rolls the window down and enters the code. The keypad beeps. A red light stays on. The man exhales once through his nose. Not irritation, not yet. Just a signal to himself to stay still. Beside him, his daughter presses her palm to the glass. She cranes her neck, trying to see beyond the bars. The house is visible from here, set back on the hill. Lights on in the front rooms. From this distance, it looks calm, unconcerned. She taps the window with one finger. Why aren't we going in? He doesn't answer right away. He shifts closer, reaches across, and pulls her seatbelt straighter across her chest, even though it's already sitting where it should. His hand lingers there a moment longer than necessary. They're checking something, he says. His voice stays even. The small speaker crackles to life near the gate. There's a pause, then a voice. Young, polite, careful in the way people are when they've been trained to sound that way. Good evening, sir. Can you please identify yourself? The man looks at the speaker. He doesn't raise his voice. This is my property, he says. Open the gate. Another pause. The driver shifts in his seat, eyes forward. Sir, we just need to confirm. I'm aware of the process, the man says. He keeps his tone flat. You have my authorization on file. The voice doesn't respond right away. When it does, it's quieter. Yes, sir? If you could just. The man opens the car door before the sentence finishes. Cold air cuts in around his ankles. He steps out onto the gravel, closes the door behind him, and straightens his coat. The guards come into view from either side of the gate. Two of them, one older, one younger. Both in uniform, both standing where they've been told to stand. The older guard nods. Evening, sir. The man nods back. He keeps his hands visible. Not out of caution, but habit. My daughter is in the car, he says. Open the gate. The younger guard glances toward the vehicle. The child is watching now, her face framed by the window, eyes following every movement. We just need to see your ID, the younger guard says. The man studies him. The guard's hand rests near his belt, not touching anything, just close enough to be ready. The man notices the distance. He notices the angle of the shoulders, the way they block the keypad without meaning to. He reaches into his pocket slowly and pulls out his wallet. He holds it up before opening it. He removes the card and extends it through the bars. The older guard takes it, checks the name, then looks up toward the house as if expecting confirmation to come from there, instead of the database he's holding in his hand. That's him, the younger guard says quietly. The older guard doesn't move. Procedure, he says, not to the man, but to the space between them. Behind them, the gate stays still. The man turns his head slightly, checking the car. His daughter has opened her door. She steps out onto the gravel without being told to. The driver starts to say something, then stops. The man holds out an arm. Not sharply, just enough. "Stay here," he says to her. She steps closer instead. Her small hand slips into his coat pocket, gripping the fabric. She doesn't look at the guards. She looks at the gate. "Daddy," she says, "did we do something wrong?" "No," he says immediately. The word comes out faster than he intended. He adjusts his tone. "No, we didn't." The older guard clears his throat. "Sir, we just need a moment." The man looks at him. Really looks this time. "How long?" he asks. The guard hesitates. "It shouldn't be long." The man nods once. He doesn't argue. He doesn't step back. He stays where he is, his daughter pressed against his side. The gravel is uneven beneath his shoes. He shifts his weight, feeling it bite into the sole. The cold has worked its way up now, settling in his ankles, his knees. A radio crackles at the guard's shoulder. Low voices. Nothing urgent, nothing helpful. The man reaches down and zips his daughter's jacket higher. She tilts her chin up so he can do it. "You cold?" he asks. She shrugs. "A little." He pulls her closer. She leans into him without hesitation, her forehead resting against his ribs. He becomes aware of how exposed they are. The open road behind them. The closed gate in front. The car slows as it passes. The driver looks, then looks again. The man feels a shift then. Not anger. Something closer to awareness. The sense that this moment is stretching beyond itself, becoming something that will not fold neatly back into place. The speaker crackles again. "Sir, can you please step back to the vehicle while we finish verification?" "No," the man says. He doesn't raise his voice. "My daughter is here. We'll wait together." The older guard exchanges a glance with the younger one. The younger guard nods, uncertain. "Sir," the older guard says, "this is just standard." "I approved this system," the man says. "I know it's standard." The guard stiffens. Not defensive, just alert. Behind the gate, the house lights flicker as someone inside turns on another room. The man notices. The distance feels larger now. His daughter shifts her weight. "Can we go inside soon?" she asks. He looks down at her. He opens his mouth, then closes it again. He doesn't want to promise something he can't control. "Soon," he says finally. The gate hums. Just for a second, a sound like it's thinking. Then it stops. No movement. No opening. The guards wait. The man waits. The child waits. Nothing changes. The moment stretches, thin and quiet, pressing on all of them. He feels it settle in his chest, the understanding that whatever he does next will be seen. By the guards. By the passing cars. By the child holding his coat. He tightens his hand around her shoulder, just enough for her to feel it. The gate remains closed. The older guard shifts his stance. It's small, almost polite, but it changes the shape of the space between them. He takes half a step closer to the keypad. Not to open it, just to stand nearer to the thing that controls it. The man notices. He does not comment. He bends slightly, bringing his face closer to his daughter's level. He does not crouch. He stays upright, solid. "You remember how sometimes people have to check things twice?" he asks her. She nods, still holding his coat. "Like at the airport?" "Yes," he says. "Like that." She considers this. "But they know you there." He doesn't answer right away. He straightens again and looks past the guards, through the bars, toward the long drive that curves up toward the house. The lights along the path are on. The timers work. Everything is functioning exactly as designed. That seems to be the problem. A third guard appears from the side path, jogging lightly, radio pressed to his ear. He slows when he reaches the gate. He takes in the scene quickly. The car, the child, the man standing too close to the bars. "Evening," the third guard says. He looks younger than the others, less practiced at neutrality. His eyes flick to the man's face, then to the child, then away again. The older guard hands him the ID. The third guard scans it, then glances at the house, as if the building itself might confirm something the card cannot. "It's him," the younger guard says again, more firmly this time. "I know," the third guard says. He lowers his voice. "But we got an alert." The man's head turns slightly. "What alert?" The third guard hesitates. He looks at the older guard before answering. "Unauthorized approach," he says. "System flagged the vehicle." The man looks back at the car. The driver sits rigid, hands on the wheel, eyes forward, as if movement might make things worse. "That's my driver," the man says. "That's my car." "Yes, sir," the third guard says. "The plate wasn't recognized." The man waits. He gives them space to finish the thought. "The system was updated this afternoon," the third guard continues. "There was a delay syncing new entries." The man nods once. He doesn't react beyond that. "So open the gate," he says. The third guard looks at the older one again. There's a conversation happening without words. Responsibility shifting back and forth trying to find a place to land. "We just need confirmation from inside," the older guard says. "Just to clear the alert." The man feels his jaw tighten. Not visibly. Not enough for anyone else to see. Enough that he notices it himself. "Who are you calling?" he asks. "Control," the guard says. "House manager." The man exhales. Slowly. He looks down at his daughter. She's watching the guards now, her face unreadable in the way children's faces sometimes are when they're trying to understand rules they didn't make. He adjusts his grip on her shoulder, not to restrain her, to anchor himself. "Okay," he says. The guards step aside to make the call. They don't move far. The gate remains between them, solid and unyielding. The man turns slightly, positioning his body so he's between his daughter and the guards. It's subtle, almost unconscious. But it changes where the lines fall. A voice comes through the radio, muffled, indistinct. "Yes," the third guard says. "Yes, he's here." A pause. The man watches the guard's face as he listens. The guard nods once. Then again. "Yes," he repeats. "With his daughter." Another pause. Longer this time. The man feels the weight of that phrase settle. With his daughter. As if her presence complicates something that should be simple, the guard lowers the radio. He doesn't meet the man's eyes right away. "They're checking," he says. The man nods. He doesn't speak. He feels his daughter shift again. She looks up at him. "Are they scared?" she asks quietly. He looks down at her. The question lands heavier than the ones before it. "No," he says. "They're just doing their job." She seems satisfied with that. She turns her gaze back to the gate. The night air feels sharper now. The man becomes aware of the time passing in small ways. The ache in his feet, the stiffness creeping into his lower back, the way the cold presses against his ears. Another car passes. Slower this time. The driver doesn't pretend not to look. The radio crackles again. The third guard listens. His posture changes. Straightens. "Yes," he says. "Understood." He looks up at the man. "Sir, there's been a delay. We're waiting for authorization to override the alert." The man studies him. He searches for something in the guard's face certainty. Apology, recognition. He finds none of it. Just procedure. "How long?" he asks again. "I don't have an exact time," the guard says. The man nods. He looks at the gate. He looks at the house. He looks at his daughter. She is rubbing her hands together now, breath puffing white in the air. He pulls off his coat without thinking and drapes it around her shoulders. It hangs too long, nearly brushing the gravel. "Here," he says. She smiles, small and quick. "Thank you." He buttons it for her. His fingers move faster than they should. He forces them to slow. The driver opens his door slightly. "Sir?" he asks. The man shakes his head once. "Not now." The driver closes the door again. The guards wait. The gate waits. The man feels the balance tipping. He recognizes the sensation from other moments meetings that have gone on too long. Negotiations where silence becomes a tactic instead of a pause. He knows what happens when things are allowed to drift. He also knows who is watching him right now. He straightens his shoulders. He does not raise his voice. "This is enough," he says. The guards look at him. All three now. "My daughter should not be standing in the cold outside her home because of a system error." He continues, "Open the gate." The older guard swallows. "Sir, I don't have the authority." The man lifts a hand, not sharply, just enough to stop the sentence. "You do," he says. "You're choosing not to use it." Silence follows. It is not dramatic. It is heavy. The child tightens her grip on his coat. He feels it through the fabric. The radio remains quiet. The gate does not move. The man stands there, his daughter wrapped in his coat, the house still out of reach, and understands that waiting is no longer neutral. Whatever comes next will carry weight. He feels it settle, steady and unavoidable. He takes a breath. And then he moves. He doesn't rush. That's what surprises the guards most. There's no sudden step forward, no raised voice, no hand reaching for the keypad. He simply turns, takes his daughter gently by the hand, and walks back toward the car. The gravel shifts under their feet. The sound feels louder now, like it's announcing a decision before he's spoken it aloud. The driver opens the door immediately. The man lifts his daughter into the back seat, settles her in, pulls the coat tighter around her shoulders. He pauses with one hand on the doorframe. "Stay buckled," he says. She nods. "Okay." He closes the door carefully. Not hard, not softly. Just closed. He turns back to the gate. The guards haven't moved. They watch him approach again. Slower this time, deliberate. The older guard clears his throat. "Sir," he says, "we're just trying to keep everyone safe." The man stops a few feet from the bars. He keeps that distance on purpose. He places his hands in his coat pockets. "Then look at what you're doing," he says. "You've left a child standing outside her home in the cold. Explain to me how that's safety." The guard opens his mouth and closes it again. "We follow protocol," the younger guard says, quieter than before. The man nods once. "I wrote part of that protocol," he says. "I know where discretion is allowed." The third guard shifts his weight. He looks toward the road again, then back at the man. "Sir," he says, "if something happened—" "What?" the man asks. His tone sharpens just enough to draw a line. "What do you think is going to happen?" The guard hesitates. He doesn't answer. The man looks past them, toward the keypad. He steps closer now. Not to touch it. Just to stand near it. "I'm asking you to open the gate," he says. "Not because I own this place. Because my daughter is tired and cold and confused. And because you have the authority to fix this right now." The older guard swallows. He glances at the keypad. Then at the radio on his shoulder. "I need confirmation," he says. The man holds his gaze. "You have confirmation." The radio crackles to life. All three guards stiffen slightly. "Hold position," a voice says. Calm, distant, uninvolved. The older guard nods reflexively. "Copy." The man exhales through his nose. Slowly. He turns his head just enough to see the car. His daughter is watching him through the window, her face half hidden by the collar of his coat. Her eyes are steady, curious, waiting. He feels something settle then, a clarity that has nothing to do with anger. He takes his phone from his pocket. The guards notice immediately. The younger one straightens. "Sir?" The man doesn't look at him. He scrolls, taps once, then raises the phone to his ear. It rings twice. "David," the voice answers. "Where are you?" the man asks. "At home," the voice says. "Why?" "Come to the front gate," the man says. "Now." A pause. "Is everything all right?" "No," the man says. "But it will be." He ends the call. The guards exchange looks. The older one shifts his stance again, this time stepping slightly in front of the keypad without realizing he's doing it. "You can't override without clearance," he says. "I know," the man replies. "That's why I'm not asking you to." He steps back. Just one step. Enough to change the dynamic again. The minutes stretch. The cold deepens. The man remains standing, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed but unmoving. A car turns onto the drive from inside the property. Headlights cut across the gravel. It slows as it approaches the gate. The house manager steps out, middle-aged, coat thrown on hastily. He looks from the guards to the man to the car behind him. "Sir," the manager says quickly, walking up. "I'm so sorry. There was a system." The man raises a hand. The manager stops mid-sentence. "Is the system fixed?" the man asks. "Yes," the manager says. "It should be. We can open the gate immediately." The man looks at the guards, all three of them. Then, back at the manager. "Why wasn't it open before?" he asks. The manager hesitates. "They were following protocol." The man nods. "That's what they said." He turns back to the guards. "You had my ID," he says. "You recognized me. You saw my daughter, and you chose to wait." The older guard looks down. The younger one stares straight ahead. "We didn't want to make a mistake," the older guard says. The man considers that. He looks at the gate, at the bars, at the house beyond them. "You already did," he says. The manager clears his throat. "Sir, should I?" "Yes," the man says. "Open it." The manager enters a code. The keypad beeps. This time, the light turns green. The gate hums. Slowly, deliberately, it begins to slide open. The man does not move until it is fully open. He watches the space widen, the absence where the barrier had been. He walks back to the car, opens the door, slides into the seat beside his daughter. She looks up at him. "We can go in now?" "Yes," he says. The driver eases the car forward. They pass through the gate at a measured pace, not rushed, not defiant. As they drive up the long path toward the house, the man looks back once in the side mirror. The guards stand where they were, watching the car disappear into the property. The gate closes behind them. Inside the car, it's quiet. The heater hums softly. The child leans against the door, her eyes already heavy. "Daddy," she says, barely above a whisper. "Yes." "Why didn't they know it was us?" He looks straight ahead. The house grows closer, room by room, window by window. "They should have," he says. She nods, accepting this without question. Her eyes close. The car slows near the front steps. The driver pulls to a stop. The man does not move right away. He sits there, listening to the engine idle, feeling the weight of what has already shifted. The gate is closed behind them, but something else has opened, and he knows it will not close as easily. He lifts his daughter out of the car and carries her the rest of the way. She doesn't protest. Her arms circle his neck, loose with sleep. Her cheek rests against his shoulder, warm now, trusting. The front door opens before he reaches it. The house manager steps back, giving space. Inside, the lights are brighter than they were from the gate. Too bright. The man feels it immediately, the contrast between outside and in, between resistance and ease. He crosses the threshold. The door closes behind them with a soft, final sound. Inside, everything is as it should be. Shoes lined up near the wall. A bowl of keys on the table. The faint smell of dinner from earlier, long cooled. The normal order presses in, almost convincing. He carries his daughter up the stairs. Each step creaks in the same places it always has. She stirs once, then settles again. In her room, he lays her down gently, pulls the blankets up, removes his coat from around her shoulders, and hangs it over the chair. He watches her breathe for a moment longer than necessary. "Good night," he says quietly. She doesn't answer. She's already gone. He steps back into the hallway and closes the door most of the way, leaving it cracked the way she prefers. Downstairs, the house manager waits near the entry, hands folded, posture apologetic. "I'm very sorry, sir," he says again. "This shouldn't have happened." The man nods once. He does not sit. "Who authorized the delay?" he asks. The manager hesitates. "The system flagged." "I'm not asking about the system," the man says. His voice is calm, but it no longer invites explanation. "I'm asking who decided to wait." The manager swallows. Ultimately, the supervisor on duty. The man nods again. He looks past the manager toward the front windows. From here, the gate is not visible. The problem feels distant already, as if it belongs to a different part of the property. Thank you, he says. The manager shifts. Is there anything else you need? The man considers the question. He thinks of the guards standing outside, of the radios, of the closed gate, of his daughter's question in the cold. No, he says. You can go. The manager leaves. The house grows quiet, not the soft quiet of night, but the deliberate quiet of a place that expects to be protected by something outside itself. The man moves through the rooms without turning on additional lights. He checks the locks out of habit. Front door, side door, back entrance, all secure. He stops at the window that faces the drive. He can just make out the outline of the gate in the distance. It is closed. Still, obedient. He stands there for a long moment. He does not think about anger. He does not replay the conversation. He focuses instead on the sequence of events, on timing, on who acted and who waited, on how long his daughter stood outside her own home. He reaches for his phone. There are messages already, missed calls, notifications from people who noticed something unusual. He ignores them. He opens a document instead, an old one, a list. He scrolls slowly, reading names he approved years ago. Roles, titles, clearances. He stops at one. He locks the phone without making a change. Upstairs, a floorboard creaks as the house settles. Somewhere, a heater clicks on. The man exhales. He removes his shoes and sets them neatly by the door. The motion is careful, controlled. He knows what he will do. He also knows it cannot be undone. Outside beyond the walls, the guards remain at their posts, radios on, procedures intact, waiting for the next instruction. Inside, a father stands alone in the quiet, measuring the cost of what restraint required and what force will take. The night continues. The gate stays closed. Morning comes without ceremony. The man wakes before the alarm, the way he has since his daughter was born. He lies still for a moment, listening. The house is quiet, too quiet. He can hear the hum of the heating system, the faint click of something cycling on and off outside. No voices, no footsteps. He gets up and dresses without turning on the light. Down the hall, his daughter's door is still cracked open. He pauses there, watching her sleep. She's on her side, one arm flung over the pillow, hair tangled across her face. Her breathing is steady. He closes the door a little more, just enough to narrow the opening, and goes downstairs. The kitchen smells faintly of coffee from the timer he set the night before. He pours a cup and stands by the counter, not drinking it. His phone rests face down beside him. Outside, through the front window, he can see the long curve of the drive. The gate is still closed. 2 guards stand near it, silhouettes against the pale morning light. Shift change hasn't happened yet. He takes one sip of coffee, sets the cup down. When his daughter comes downstairs, she's quieter than usual. She climbs into her chair and swings her legs once, then stills them. "Are we late?" she asks. "No," he says. "We have time." She nods. She traces a finger along the edge of the table. "Are the guards still there?" she asks. "Yes." She thinks about this. "Are they mad at you?" He looks at her. He chooses his words carefully. "No," he says. "They're doing what they were told." She accepts that, but it doesn't settle her. He can see it in the way she eats slower than usual, the way she keeps glancing toward the window. After breakfast, he helps her into her jacket. He kneels to zip it, the same way he did the night before. But this time, the motion feels different. Less automatic, more deliberate. Outside, the air is crisp. The car waits in the drive. The driver stands by the door, posture attentive, eyes flicking toward the gate. They get in. The door closes. The familiar cocoon of the car surrounds them. The man does not give the signal to drive right away. His daughter settles into her seat. She watches him, waiting. "Daddy," she says, "are they going to stop us again?" He meets her eyes in the reflection of the window. I don't know, he says. The honesty lands between them. She nods once, absorbing it. The driver looks back. Sir? Yes, the man says. Let's go. The car rolls forward. Gravel crunches beneath the tires. The gate grows larger in the windshield, just as it did the night before. This time, the guards notice immediately. One of them straightens. Another steps closer to the keypad. The man feels his body respond before his mind does. His shoulders tighten. His jaw sets. He does not let either become visible. The car stops. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the gate opens. No questions. No pauses. The bars slide apart smoothly, efficiently, as if they had never resisted at all. The driver exhales quietly and eases the car forward. They pass through. The man watches the guards in the side mirror. One of them avoids his gaze. Another nods, brief and professional. Inside the car, his daughter releases a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Oh, she says. The word is small. It carries relief, confusion, and something else he doesn't name. They continue down the road. The house disappears behind them. The man does not speak. He watches his daughter instead. She leans her forehead against the window, eyes following the passing trees. After a few minutes, she turns back toward him. Why did they open it this time? She asks. He considers the question. He thinks of the list on his phone, of the document he opened and closed without changing, of the certainty that settled in him after she fell asleep. Because they were sure, he says. Sure of what? He pauses. He chooses not to look away. Sure of who we were. She nods slowly. They should have been sure before. Yes, he says. She sits with that. Then she says very plainly, I didn't like waiting. He feels the statement land. It reframes the night without drama, without accusation, just truth. I know, he says. The car continues on. The road opens up ahead of them. Morning traffic thickens. Normal life resumes, indifferent. The man's phone vibrates in his pocket. He does not check it. When they reach her school, he walks her to the door. He kneels to straighten her backpack straps. Will the gate be open when we come home? She asks. He looks at her. He does not reassure her. It will, he says. She searches his face, then nods. She turns and runs inside without looking back. He stands there for a moment after the door closes. Then he turns, walks back to the car, and sits. Office? The driver asks. Yes, the man says. As the car pulls away, he finally takes out his phone. He opens the document again. This time, he does not close it. The car moves into traffic. The city comes alive around them, buses pulling out, pedestrians stepping off curbs, storefronts opening their lights. The man watches it all without focus. His attention stays inward, anchored to a single point. The phone rests in his hand. The document is open. Names line the screen in clean rows. Each one represents a decision made in the past, a trust extended, a system approved. He scrolls. The driver keeps both hands on the wheel. He doesn't speak again. He senses the shift. He's worked for the man long enough to recognize when quiet means wait. At a red light, the man stops scrolling. He taps one name. A profile opens. Photo. Employment history. Clearance level. Notes he wrote himself years ago, back when the work felt abstract layers of security designed to prevent problems that never quite felt real. He thinks of his daughter standing on gravel, coat unzipped, breath visible in the dark. The light changes. The car moves. He makes a call. It's answered quickly. Too quickly. Yes, a voice says. Meet me at the house, the man says. This afternoon. A pause. Is something wrong? Yes, the man says again. But we'll handle it. He ends the call before questions can form. The rest of the drive passes without incident. When they reach his office building, the driver pulls into the private garage. The man steps out, straightens his coat, and pauses with one hand on the door. He looks back toward the street. Somewhere across the city, his daughter is in a classroom, learning something unrelated to gates or guards or systems that fail at the wrong moment. He turns and walks inside. The morning fills itself with tasks. Meetings stack neatly on top of one another. Conversations stay professional, controlled. No one mentions the night before, though he can feel the awareness circling him. People glance a second longer than usual. Voices soften when they address him. He notices who avoids eye contact. He also notices who doesn't. By midday, the messages he ignored have multiplied. Partners, advisors, a board member asking if everything is settled. He answers none of them. At exactly 2 o'clock, the first security supervisor arrives at the house. The man watches from the window as the car pulls up, waits at the gate, then is let through without delay. He notes that too. By 3, the others have arrived, 5 in total. They sit across from him at the long dining table, hands folded, backs straight. No one has touched the water glasses set in front of them. The man remains standing. "This will be brief," he says. They nod, attentive. He does not raise his voice. He does not accuse. He recounts the sequence of events from the night before in plain terms. Times, actions, delays, decisions made and not made. He does not mention his daughter until the end. "She was with me," he says then. The room shifts, not visibly, internally. He sees it register. He looks at each of them in turn. "Explain to me why the gate stayed closed." There are answers. Protocol. Alerts, liability. Training. Fear of making the wrong call. He listens without interrupting. He keeps his hands at his sides. He does not sit. When they finish, he nods once. "You did exactly what the system trained you to do," he says. "That's the problem." One of them starts to speak. He raises a hand. The sentence stops. "My responsibility is not to the system," he continues. "It's to my child. And last night, the system failed her." Silence follows. It is not hostile. It is final. "I'm terminating the entire security contract," he says, effective immediately. No one argues. A few look down. One exhales slowly, as if something he's been bracing against has finally arrived. The man slides a folder across the table. Inside are termination notices, already prepared. "Keys, credentials, radios," he says. "Leave them on the table." They comply. One by one, metal and plastic collect in a small pile. The sound is soft but unmistakable. When the room empties, the house feels larger, hollowed out. The man remains standing long after they've gone. Later, when he picks his daughter up from school, the drive feels different. The gate opens before the car fully stops. No guards stand beside it. No radios crackle. They pass through without comment. Inside the car, his daughter watches the empty post. "Where are they?" she asks. "They don't work here anymore," he says. She considers that. "Did you fire them?" "Yes." She nods slowly. "Because they made us wait?" "Yes." She looks out the window again. "Okay." That's all she says. The car continues up the drive. The house waits, quiet and unguarded. The man parks, turns off the engine, and sits for a moment longer than necessary. He knows this is only the beginning of the cost. The gate stands open behind them, and nothing is there to close it. The absence is immediate. The man notices it the moment he steps out of the car. No one moves toward them. No greeting. No practice scan of the surroundings. The driveway is still, empty in a way it has never been. His daughter climbs out beside him. She pauses, backpack slipping slightly off one shoulder, and looks around. "Is it okay?" she asks. "Yes," he says. He means it in the narrowest sense. The doors are locked. The lights work. The house stands where it always has. Still, the word feels thinner than it did before. They walk toward the front steps together. He keeps his pace matched to hers. She stops to pick up a leaf near the edge of the path, examines it, then drops it again. The small delay gives him time to register something else. The way his eyes keep moving, tracking corners, distances, lines of sight he never consciously measured before. Inside, the house sounds different. Not louder, more exposed. He hears the door close behind them, the echo carrying farther than it used to. He sets his daughter's backpack by the stairs. She shrubs out of her jacket. "Snack?" she asks. "In a minute," he says. "Wash your hands." She nods and heads for the sink. He watches until she turns the corner. Only then does he move. He walks the perimeter the way he's seen others do it hundreds of times. Front windows, side doors, back entrance. He tests each lock himself, applying pressure, listening to the clicks settle into place. The motions are familiar but newly his. At the back window, he pauses. Beyond the glass, the grounds stretch out uninterrupted. No patrol lights. No figures moving along the fence line. He stands there longer than he intends to. When he turns back toward the house, his daughter is watching him from the hallway. Her hands are damp, fingers curled inward, unsure. "You're checking everything," she says. "Yes," he says. "Why?" He considers the question. He could answer it a dozen ways. He chooses the simplest, because it's my job now. She accepts this without argument. She walks past him into the kitchen and pulls a chair out. Later, while she eats, he sits across from her with his phone on the table between them. He scrolls through messages this time. He reads them carefully. There are questions framed as concern. Concerns framed as suggestions. Suggestions framed as warnings. One message stands out. A partner he's known for years. This isn't how things are done. He locks the phone. "Are you going back to work?" his daughter asks around a mouthful of crackers. "Yes," he says. "Will someone be here?" He shakes his head. "Not today." She thinks about that. What if someone comes? He reaches across the table and wipes salt from her fingers. The contact grounds him. "Then I'll handle it," he says. She nods. She does not ask how. At work, the shift is less subtle than he expected. People know. They don't say it outright, but it hangs in the way meetings begin without small talk, in the way voices lower when they mention security, risk, exposure. One colleague pulls him aside after a meeting. "You didn't have to do all of them," the man says quietly. "You could have made an example." The man looks at him. "My daughter isn't an example." The colleague blinks, then nods, backing off. By mid-afternoon, the first tangible consequence arrives. An email. Formal. Carefully worded. A planned event is postponed. Concerns about optics. About stability. He reads it once. Then again, he forwards it to an assistant with a single line. Noted. That evening, he returns home earlier than usual. His daughter is in the living room, coloring on the floor. She looks up when he enters. "You're home," she says, surprised. "Yes," he says. She smiles and goes back to her drawing. He sits on the couch and watches her for a while. The crayon moves steadily across the page. She presses harder in some places, lighter in others. "What are you drawing?" he asks. "Our house," she says. He leans forward slightly. The gate is there. The drive. The front steps. There are no people outside. "Where's everyone else?" he asks. She shrugs. "Inside." He nods. He doesn't correct her. As night comes on, he locks the doors again. This time, she watches him do it. "Is it safer now?" she asks. He looks at her. He doesn't answer right away. "It's different," he says. She considers that. "I like when you check the doors." He feels the statement settle somewhere deep. Not relief, responsibility. When he tucks her into bed, she holds his hand a second longer than usual. "You won't let us wait outside again," she says. Not a question. "No," he says. After she falls asleep, he returns downstairs and stands at the front window. The drive is empty. The gate is visible now, a dark line against the night. He knows where the property ends. He's walked it, measured it, approved every boundary. Still, the lines feel less solid than they did before. He reaches for his phone. There are more messages waiting. He does not answer them. Outside, the gate remains open. Inside, a father stands alone, fully aware that removing one kind of protection has required him to become another, and he understands with quiet certainty that the cost will not stop here. The first knock comes after midnight. It isn't loud. It isn't urgent. It's measured, deliberate, the kind of knock meant to announce presence without demanding entry. The man is awake already. He sits up in bed listening. His daughter's room is quiet. Her door is closed now. He waits a full 5 seconds before moving, counting her breaths in his head the way he used to when she was younger. The knock comes again. He gets out of bed and pulls on a sweater. He does not turn on the hallway light. He moves down the stairs, one hand trailing along the wall. The house feels larger at night, its open spaces less forgiving. At the front door, he stops. He looks through the narrow pane of glass. A uniform. Not security. Police. He opens the door. Two officers stand on the porch. One older, one younger. Their posture is neutral. Not relaxed. Not tense. "Good evening," the older one says. "Sorry to bother you, sir." The man nods. "What's wrong?" "We had a report," the officer says. "Suspicious activity in the area." The man waits. "An open gate," the officer continues. "Neighbor called it in." The man nods once. He steps aside, opening the door wider. "You can come in," he says. The officers exchange a glance and step over the threshold. Their shoes make soft sounds against the floor. "My daughter is asleep," the man says. "I'd like to keep it that way." "Of course," the younger officer says quickly. The older one looks around. "Everything all right here?" "Yes," the man says. "It is." The officer studies his face. "We just need to verify that no one's trespassing." "No one is," the man says. "Your security team isn't on site," the officer says. "That's correct." There's a pause. Not accusatory. Curious. "May we check the perimeter?" the older officer asks. The man considers this. He thinks of his daughter upstairs, of her hand in his coat pocket, of the word waiting. "Yes," he says, "I'll walk with you." They move through the house together. The officers are professional, respectful. They check doors, windows, sight lines. At the back of the property, one officer notes the open gate again. "You planning to leave it like this?" the younger one asks. "For now," the man says. The officer nods. "Just be aware open access increases risk." The man looks at him. "So does closing the wrong people out." The officer doesn't argue. He notes something on his pad. When they leave, the man locks the door behind them. The house settles again. Upstairs, his daughter hasn't stirred. The next morning, the call comes from school. She fell on the playground. Nothing serious, a scraped knee. She wants him. He leaves work immediately. When he arrives, she's sitting on a bench outside the nurse's office, legs stretched out, tissue pressed to her skin. Her eyes brighten when she sees him. "You came fast," she says. "Yes," he says. The nurse explains. The man listens. He signs a form. He lifts his daughter carefully, even though she insists she can walk. In the car, she rests her head against the seat. "They asked who could pick me up," she says. "And I said you." He nods. He drives. At home, the gate opens without resistance, no guards, no questions. Inside, he cleans her knee. Slowly, carefully. She winces once, then relaxes. "It didn't hurt that much," she says. "I know," he says. She watches him wrap the bandage. "You don't rush anymore." He pauses. "What do you mean?" "Before," she says, "you were always hurrying." He considers this. He ties the knot in the bandage. "I'm still hurrying," he says, "just differently." She accepts that. That afternoon, the formal notice arrives. Insurance review. Policy reassessment. Increased premiums pending evaluation of security posture. He reads it twice. At dinner, his daughter eats quietly. She pushes peas around her plate. "Are we in trouble?" she asks. "No," he says. She looks unconvinced. "Because the police came." "They were just checking," he says. She frowns. "Everyone keeps checking us." The statement lands cleanly. No accusation. Just observation. "Yes," he says. "They do." "Why?" He reaches across the table and takes her hand. "Because they think rules keep people safe." She looks at their joined hands. "Do they?" He holds her gaze. "Sometimes." She nods slowly. "But sometimes people get cold." "Yes," he says. After she goes to bed, he sits at the kitchen table with the insurance notice in front of him. He does not crumple it. He does not respond. He writes a note, instead. To himself, security is not the same as care. He folds the paper and slips it into the same drawer where he keeps her school forms, emergency contacts, things that matter because they are used. Outside, the night is quiet, too quiet for the people watching. Across the street, a neighbor's porch light flicks on, then off again. The man stands at the window and looks out. The open gate waits, and beyond it the world adjusts, slowly, to the idea that protocol is no longer in charge. By the end of the week, people have noticed. Not in the way they announce it. No one comes to the door. No one calls to ask directly. It shows up in glances that linger too long, in cars that slow as they pass the drive, in the way the open gate has become a feature instead of an accident. The man sees it each morning when he walks his daughter to the car. Curtains shift across the road. A jogger pauses to stretch near the entrance, eyes angled toward the property. A delivery truck hesitates before pulling in, the driver checking an address twice. Nothing hostile, nothing helpful, just watching. His daughter notices too. She stops at the edge of the drive one morning, backpack already on, shoes tied. Why do people look at our house, she asks. He follows her gaze. Across the street, a woman pretends to adjust a plant on her porch. They're curious, he says. About what? He considers it. About why things changed. She nods as if this makes sense. I don't like when they stare. I know, he says. He opens the car door for her. She climbs in, pauses, then looks back at the gate. Are we supposed to close it, she asks. He does not answer immediately. He starts to say something, stops, then chooses another path. Do you want it closed? He asks. She thinks. I like seeing the road. He nods. Then we'll leave it. The driver pulls away slowly. The man watches the house recede in the mirror, open and exposed, like something left unfinished on purpose. At work, the watching takes a different shape. A colleague asks if everything is stable at home. An assistant mentions a reporter asking general questions about recent changes. A meeting is rescheduled without explanation. By noon, a message arrives from someone he hasn't heard from in years. Heard you're making things difficult for yourself. He reads it once and deletes it. In the afternoon, a black car idles too long at the curb outside his house. He sees it on a camera feed while reviewing documents. The car leaves when a delivery van pulls in behind it. That evening, his daughter sits at the kitchen counter while he cooks. She draws on scrap paper with a pencil she's chewed nearly flat. Someone at school asked why we don't have guards anymore, she says. He keeps stirring. What did you say? That you're home more, she says. He stops stirring for a moment, just long enough to register the truth in it. And what did they say, he asks. She shrugs. Nothing. They just said their dad has guards. He resumes stirring. Did that bother you? She thinks. No. I like when you walk me in. He nods. He plates the food. Later, while she does homework at the table, the doorbell rings. Once. He looks up. She looks at him. Who is it? She asks. I don't know, he says. He stands. He walks to the door and looks through the glass. A man stands on the porch. Not police. Not security. Well dressed. A folder under one arm, the posture of someone used to being welcomed. The man opens the door. Good evening, the visitor says. I hope I'm not intruding. The man waits. I represent a firm specializing in private residential security, the visitor continues. We've been asked to review your current arrangements. By whom? The man asks. The visitor smiles thinly. Concerned parties. The man nods. I'm not interested. The visitor lifts a hand slightly. It would just be a conversation. No, the man says. The visitor glances past him, into the house. He sees the child at the table. He lowers his voice. Your daughter's safety is important, he says. The man feels the line then. Clear. Uncrossable. So is her understanding of the world, he replies. The visitor straightens. If you'll change your mind, I won't, the man says. He closes the door. His daughter watches him from the table. Who was that? She asks. Someone who wanted to sell us something, he says. Did we need it? No, he says. She nods and returns to her work. That night, the neighborhood chat lights up. He doesn't belong to it, but screenshots find their way to him anyway. Speculation, concern, a few veiled warnings. Open gates invite trouble. Rules exist for a reason. Children shouldn't be used to make points. He deletes the messages as they come in. The next morning, a news van parks 2 streets away. The camera never points directly at his house, but it doesn't have to. The implication is enough. He walks his daughter to the car anyway. He does not hurry. Are they here because of us? She asks. Yes, he says. Did we do something bad? No, he says immediately. We didn't. She looks relieved, then puzzled. Then why do they care? He opens her door, because when someone changes how things are done, people worry about what it means. She climbs in, then pauses. Are you worried? He meets her eyes. Yes, she nods. Me too. He closes the door and steps back. The driver waits for his signal. Before he gives it, the man looks around. The open gate. The watching neighbors. The van down the street. He feels the weight of it now, not as pressure, but as exposure. Every choice visible. Every consequence public. The driver pulls away. That afternoon, a sponsor withdraws from a project without explanation. A board member requests a meeting to discuss risk. The insurance company follows up, firmer this time. Losses begin to stack, quietly, methodically. When he picks his daughter up, she runs toward him faster than usual. Can we stay home tonight? She asks. Yes, he says. They do. They eat on the couch. He reads while she leans against him, tracing shapes on his sleeve with her finger. Outside, a car idles, then leaves. Before bed, she looks up at him. Daddy, she says, are you in trouble? He thinks of contracts paused, of reputations recalibrating, of people watching and waiting. Yes, he says. She frowns. Is it because of me? He turns fully toward her. He makes sure she sees his face. No, he says. It's because of me. She studies him, then nods. Okay, she studies him, then nods. Okay, she says. Just don't make me wait again. He feels the request settle into place, simple and unyielding. I won't, he says. After she falls asleep, he sits alone in the living room. The lights are off. The house is quiet. The open gate hums faintly in the distance, a low mechanical sound he never noticed before. He understands now that restraint has made him visible, that choosing care over compliance has placed him squarely in view. And once seen, he knows there is no returning to obscurity. The world is watching, and it is waiting to see what he does next. The call comes while he's tying his daughter's shoes. She's sitting on the bottom stair, legs straight out, toes pointed up, watching his hands work the laces. He slowed the motion on purpose, left over right. Pull, loop, tuck. The repetition steadies him. His phone vibrates in his pocket. He ignores it. Too tight? He asks. She wiggles her toes. No. He nods and moves to the other shoe. The phone vibrates again. Longer this time. Daddy, she says, your phone's buzzing. I know, he says. He finishes the knot, presses his thumb down to make sure it will hold, then stands. Only then does he take the phone out. The name on the screen tells him this isn't something that will wait. He answers. Yes, he says. There's no greeting on the other end. No easing into it. We need to talk, the voice says. We can, he replies. Now. A pause. Not like this. He looks at his daughter. She's watching his face more than his hands now. Then it will have to wait, he says. This affects you, the voice says. Professionally. He doesn't respond. And personally, the voice adds. That lands closer. Say what you need to say, the man says. Another pause. Longer, careful. There are concerns, the voice says. About your judgment. The man leans against the wall. He keeps his voice level. Whose? Several, the voice says. People who matter. He nods once, even though the other person can't see it. They think you overreacted, the voice continues, that you let something personal interfere with. With what? The man asks. With stability, the voice says. He looks down at his daughter. She's tying and untying the strap on her backpack, not looking up, listening anyway. My child was locked outside her home, he says. That's not personal. That's specific. Silence. You've put people in a difficult position, the voice says finally. So did the gate, he replies. The voice exhales. There are consequences. I'm aware, he says. Not all of them are reversible. He closes his eyes briefly. Not in regret. In recognition. Are you threatening me? He asks. No, the voice says. I'm warning you. He considers that. He thinks of the insurance letters, the sponsors, the neighbors, the watching. Then let me warn you back, he says. I will not teach my daughter that authority matters more than her safety. That's not what this is about, the voice says. It is for me, he replies. Another pause. This one heavier. There will be a meeting, the voice says. Soon. I'll attend, the man says. He ends the call before it can stretch further. He slips the phone back into his pocket and turns to his daughter. Ready? He asks. She nods. Are we late? No, he says. We have time. Outside, the air is sharp again. The gate stands open. A car across the street slows, then moves on. They get into the car. The driver glances back, question in his eyes. School, the man says. The car pulls away. Halfway there, his daughter speaks. You sounded different, she says. On the phone? Yes. He considers that. I was being careful. Why? Because sometimes when people talk about rules, they forget who the rules are for. She leans back against the seat. Rules are for people. Yes, he says, and kids are people, she adds. Yes, he says again. She nods, satisfied. When he drops her off, she pauses at the door. Will they make you close the gate? She asks. He looks at her. He does not soften the truth. They might try, he says. She thinks about that. Will you? He holds her gaze. No, he says. She smiles once, quick and sure, then runs inside. The smile stays with him longer than it should. At work, the meeting notice arrives before noon. Mandatory attendance. Limited agenda. He reads it once, deletes it. He knows the time and place without needing to keep the reminder. That afternoon, another offer comes in. Private security. Discreet. Flexible. Framed as a solution that lets everyone save face. He doesn't respond. That evening, as he helps his daughter with homework, she struggles with a question. He waits instead of answering for her. She works it out on her own. There, she says. I did it. Yes, he says. You did. Later, after she's asleep, he sits at the table with the lights off. The house hums around him. He opens his laptop and reviews documents he hasn't touched in years. Agreements, clauses, exit terms. Each one represents a door he once assumed he'd never have to walk through. Outside, a car drives past slowly. He doesn't look up. He closes the laptop. The inciting moment has already happened. He knows that now. The gate was just the visible part. What's coming next will not announce itself with a lock or a delay. It will come dressed as reason, and he understands with steady clarity that the choice he made for his daughter has shifted something permanent into motion. The world will not let it go. Neither will he. The meeting room is smaller than he expected. Not cramped, just contained. The kind of room designed to limit movement, to keep bodies in place and voices low. A long table, frosted glass walls, no windows that look outside. He arrives early. He always does. He takes the chair closest to the door, sets his phone face down on the table, and waits. The others arrive in pairs, then one by one. Familiar faces. People who have known him long enough to believe they understand him. They nod. Some smile. Some don't. No one mentions the gate. Not at first. They talk about numbers, schedules, a delayed project. The conversation circles, careful and professional, as if avoiding something fragile in the center of the table. He lets it. When it finally comes, it's framed gently. "We're concerned," one of them says, "about exposure." Another adds, "about precedent." A third leans forward, "about how this looks." He listens. He doesn't interrupt. He keeps his hands folded in front of him still. Eventually someone says his name. He looks up. "This wasn't how it was supposed to go," the man across from him says. He nods. "No," he replies, "it wasn't." They wait for him to elaborate. He doesn't. The silence stretches. It makes them uncomfortable. He can tell by the way one of them shifts in their chair, another clears their throat. "We're not questioning your intentions," someone says. But the response was extreme. "My daughter stood outside our gate for 12 minutes, he says. He states it the way he would state a time on a schedule. No emphasis. No anger. In the cold. A pause. "That's regrettable," the man across from him says. "It's specific," he replies. Another voice cuts in. "You could have handled it internally." He looks at her. "I did." "You fired everyone," she says. "Yes," he replies. "That creates instability." He considers that. He thinks of his daughter rubbing her hands together, of her voice asking if they did something wrong. "So does teaching a child that authority is more important than her presence," he says. No one responds immediately. A folder slides across the table toward him. He doesn't touch it. "We're asking you to reconsider," the man at the head of the table says. "Rehire. Reframe. Close the gate. Let this settle." The phrasing is deliberate. Rehire. Rehire. Reframe. Close. He looks down at the folder, then back up. "No," he says. "It isn't defiant. It isn't loud. It's simply complete." The room stills. "If you don't," someone says carefully, "there will be consequences." He nods. "I know. Some of them will affect your position here." He nods again. "I know." Another pause. This one carries weight. Decisions recalibrating. Calculations adjusting. "You're asking us to accept risk," the man at the head of the table says. "No," he replies. "I'm accepting it." They exchange looks. The risk is easier when it's shared. "This is personal for you," someone says. "Yes," he replies. "That doesn't make it optional." When the meeting ends, there is no resolution. No raised voices. No slammed doors. Just a quiet understanding that something has fractured. He leaves without shaking hands. Outside, the day has shifted. Clouds have moved in. The light is flatter now, less forgiving. He gets into the car. The driver pulls away without asking. "Home," he says. The drive feels longer than usual. Traffic thickens. The horn blares somewhere ahead. He watches the city slide past. The same streets he's driven 1,000 times, now slightly altered by awareness. When they reach the gate, it opens automatically. No pause. No hesitation. The absence of resistance lands heavier than the delay ever did. Inside, his daughter is sitting on the front steps with her backpack beside her. She stands when she sees him. "You're early," she says. "Yes," he replies. He kneels to her level. He checks her face. Her hands. "Everything okay?" he asks. She nods. "I got a sticker." He smiles once. "Good." They walk inside together. Later, while she does homework at the kitchen table, his phone buzzes again. He doesn't answer. He flips it face down. She notices. "You're not talking to people anymore," she says. "I am," he replies. "Just less." "Why?" "Because some conversations try to move you without asking where you're standing." She thinks about that. "I don't like being moved." He nods. "Neither do I." That night, after she's asleep, he walks the perimeter again. Same doors. Same locks. Same silence. At the back of the property, he stops. The fence line stretches out, uninterrupted. Beyond it, darkness. He stands there, hands in his pockets, listening to the wind move through the trees. He knows what they're waiting for. A compromise, a gesture, something to signal that this can still be smoothed over. He also knows what he's already given up. The call comes just before midnight. This time, it's not a warning. It's a notice. Temporary suspension. Pending review. Effective immediately. He reads it twice. Inside the house, his daughter sleeps through it. He stands there for a long time after the screen goes dark, not weighing the decision, not regretting it, just feeling the full shape of what choosing care has already cost him. The gate remains open. The world has stepped back, and he understands now that entry was only the beginning. The house learns the suspension before he does, not through words, through absence. Morning arrives without the usual rhythm of messages, calls, reminders. His phone stays quiet on the kitchen counter while he packs his daughter's lunch. He moves more slowly than usual, not because he has time, but because there is nothing pressing him forward. She notices. "You're not rushing," she says, watching him cut an apple into even slices. "No," he says, "I'm not." "Did you forget something?" He shakes his head. No. They eat together at the table. No screens. No interruptions. The quiet stretches, comfortable but unfamiliar. Outside, the gate is still open. A delivery truck passes without slowing. A neighbor waves, tentative. When they get in the car, the driver hesitates. "Office?" he asks, then corrects himself. "Or home," the man says. The driver nods and pulls back into the drive. They don't go anywhere. The day unfolds in small tasks. He fixes a cabinet hinge that's been loose for months. He sorts through a drawer of old documents and throws most of them away. He folds laundry while his daughter colors at the table. She looks up at him after a while. "Are you working today?" "Yes," he says, tightening a screw. "Just differently." She accepts that. Around noon, the first call comes. He lets it ring. Then another. Then a message. "We need to talk." He sets the phone face down and returns to the cabinet. His daughter watches him from the corner of her eye. "You're ignoring them," she says. "Yes," he replies. "Are they mad?" He straightens, tests the hinge, then closes the cabinet door. "They're uncomfortable," he says. "Why?" "Because they expected me to fix something by putting it back the way it was." She thinks about that. "But it was broken." "Yes," he says. In the afternoon, a courier arrives with a thick envelope. He signs for it and sets it on the table without opening it. His daughter points at it. "Is that for you?" "Yes." "Is it bad?" He considers the question. "It's final," he says. She nods, as if that explains it. They go for a walk before dinner. Just the two of them. No driver, no schedule. The neighborhood feels closer on foot, more porous. A man across the street watches them pass. Not hostile. Curious. "Do they know us?" she asks. "No," he says. "Then why do they look?" He doesn't answer right away. He adjusts his pace to match hers. "Because they see a door open," he says, "and they wonder why." That evening, after she's asleep, he opens the envelope. Suspension terms. Conditions. A path back, clearly outlined, if he chooses it. Reinstatement, contingent on review, public clarification, structural changes. Close the gate. He reads it once, then again. He folds the papers and places them in the same drawer as the insurance notice, the police card, the note he wrote to himself. Security is not the same as care. The house is quiet. No radios. No footsteps outside. No sense of being watched. He sits at the kitchen table and listens to the silence settle. It isn't peaceful. It's exposed. But it's honest. Upstairs, his daughter turns in her sleep and murmurs something he can't hear. He waits until she's still again before standing. He checks the doors. He checks the windows. He leaves the gate open. The world has gone quiet around him, not because it agrees, but because it's waiting. Waiting for him to fill the silence with something reassuring, something familiar. He doesn't. He turns off the lights and goes upstairs. The cost is no longer abstract. It's measurable now. And it's only just begun. The first night without the driver feels wrong, not unsafe, unbalanced. The man stands in the driveway with his keys in his hand, watching his daughter climb into the back seat by herself. She pauses, waiting for him to open the door from the outside the way the driver always did. He catches it too late. "Oh," she says, and reaches for the handle on her own. He closes his eyes for a fraction of a second. Then he opens the door properly and steps back. "Sorry," he says. "It's okay," she replies, already settling in. The drive to the grocery store is quiet. He's careful with the turns, conscious of the unfamiliar weight of responsibility behind the wheel. Every stoplight feels longer than it should. She watches the street from her window. "This is different," she says. "Yes," he replies. "Do you like it?" He considers that. "I like being here," he says. She nods. That's enough. Inside the store, people recognize him less without the driver, without the sense of arrangement that usually surrounds him. A woman asks if he needs help finding something. He thanks her and moves on. They shop slowly. His daughter pushes the cart, serious about the task. She insists on choosing the apples herself. "These ones," she says. "They're shiny." "Okay," he says. At checkout, the card hesitates before going through, just long enough to register. It clears. He exhales. At home, they cook together. He chops. She stirs. The kitchen fills with simple smells: garlic, oil, something grounding. At the table, the quiet returns. She eats carefully, eyes down, chewing longer than usual. He notices. "You don't like it?" he asks. "It's fine," she says. He waits. She pushes her plate slightly away. "It's just quiet." "Yes," he says. "Too quiet." He thinks of the radios, the guards, the constant low hum of protection he never had to think about. "Yes," he says. She considers that. "I like when you talk." He nods. He picks up his fork. They eat in companionable silence after that. Not strained, just new. After dinner, she helps clear the table. She reaches for a glass and nearly drops it. He catches it before it hits the floor. She looks up at him, startled. "Sorry," she says quickly. "It's okay," he replies. "It didn't break." She nods, but her shoulders stay tense. Later, while he washes dishes, she sits on the counter and swings her legs. "Did you lose your job?" she asks suddenly. The question lands without warning. He turns off the water. He dries his hands slowly. "I'm not working right now," he says. "Forever?" "I don't know," he replies. She watches him. "Did that happen because of the gate?" "Yes," he says. She frowns. "Then it's my fault." He steps closer. He places his hands on her knees so she has to look at him. "No," he says. "It's not. But you did it because of me." "Yes," he says. She blinks. "That's the same." "No," he says gently. "It isn't." She studies his face, searching for certainty. "Are we okay?" He holds her gaze. He doesn't rush the answer. "Yes," he says. "We are." She nods slowly. "Okay." That night, when he tucks her in, she asks him to leave the door open wider than usual. He does. He sits on the edge of her bed until her breathing evens out. He stays longer than he needs to. Downstairs, the house creaks as it settles. The quiet presses in again. He opens his laptop and reviews their accounts. Numbers have shifted. Not dangerously. Yet, but enough to notice. He closes it without making changes. Outside, the gate stands open. A car passes, headlights sweeping briefly across the drive. He watches until it's gone. The silence at dinner lingers into the night. Not empty. Weighted. He understands now that silence is not the absence of sound. It's the absence of buffering, and every sound that follows matters more. The first storm comes without warning. Not violent, just persistent. Rain settles in early afternoon and refuses to move on. It taps against the windows in uneven rhythms, seeps into the ground, darkens the edges of the drive. The man notices because the house sounds different when it rains. The open gate carries the noise farther. Water hits the metal and echoes faintly, a hollow sound that didn't used to reach the windows. His daughter notices too. "Is the gate okay?" she asks, standing at the window with her arms crossed. Yes, he says. It's made for weather. She watches the rain slide down the glass. What about people? He joins her at the window. What about them? If it's open, she says, they can come in. He doesn't answer right away. He crouches beside her instead and adjusts the hem of her socks, which have bunched at her ankles. Most people don't, he says, and the ones who do usually tell you first. She thinks about that. Like knocking? Yes, he says. The rain thickens. Somewhere down the road, thunder rolls, distant and low. That evening, the power flickers once, just enough to reset the clocks. The man moves through the house, resetting them one by one. The routine steadies him. His daughter follows, counting loud as he presses buttons. Kitchen, living room, hallway, she says. When they reach the window that faces the drive, he stops. Outside, the gate is still open, rain streaking down its frame. Beyond it, the road glistens under streetlights. A car slows as it passes, slows more than it needs to. He feels it before he sees it. The shift in attention, the curiosity leaning toward intrusion. The car idles for a moment, then moves on. His daughter notices his stillness. What? She asks. Nothing, he says. Just listening. Later, after she's asleep, the rain turns heavier. The wind picks up. Branches scrape against the side of the house. He checks the doors again. Not because he doubts them, because he needs to feel the weight of the locks in his hands. At the back door, he pauses. The rain has blown sideways, leaving a dark smear across the glass. For a moment, the reflection startles him his own shape, distorted, doubled. He wipes the glass with his sleeve and looks out. Nothing moves. He locks the door and stands there longer than necessary. The sound of tires on gravel pulls his attention toward the front of the house. He goes to the window. Headlights. Slow, careful. A car easing up the drive, rain flashing in its beams. He doesn't reach for his phone. He doesn't step back. He waits. The car stops short of the house. The engine idles. No one gets out. Upstairs, a floorboard creaks as his daughter turns in her sleep. The man opens the front door and steps onto the porch. Rain dots his shoulders immediately. He stands where he's visible. The car's headlights cut off. The engine revs once, then backs slowly down the drive. He watches until it reaches the road and disappears. Inside, he closes the door and locks it. He leans his forehead briefly against the wood, just long enough to feel the solidness of it. The next morning, the rain is gone. The ground is soft. The air smells clean. His daughter eats her cereal quietly, spoon-tapping the bowl in small, absent rhythms. Did someone come last night? She asks without looking up. Yes, he says. Who? I don't know, he replies. She looks up then. Did you open the door? Yes, he says. Her eyes widen. Why? Because they needed to see someone was home. She thinks about that. Were you scared? He considers the question. He chooses his words with care. I was aware, he says. She nods, as if that answers it. At school drop-off, she hugs him tighter than usual. Will you be here today? She asks. Yes, he says. Promise. Yes, he says again. She releases him and runs inside. Back home, he notices the change immediately. A sign has been posted at the end of the drive. Temporary. Laminated. Private property. It wasn't there yesterday. He stands with his hands in his pockets and looks at it for a long time. He doesn't remember asking for it. He doesn't remember approving it. Someone else has decided something on his behalf. He pulls it out of the ground and sets it against the fence. Inside, his phone vibrates. A message from an advisor. Short. Direct. This is getting noticed. He types a reply. Deletes it. Leaves the message unread. Exposure isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It arrives as small intrusions. Cars that linger. Signs that appear. Questions his daughter asks sooner than she should have to. That evening as he cooks, she sits at the table drawing again. This time, she draws the gate closed. He notices but doesn't comment. She looks up. It's just for the picture, she says. He nods. I know. They eat. The quiet returns, but it's different now, not empty, alert. He checks the locks before bed. Twice. When he turns off the light in his daughter's room, she stops him. Daddy? Yes? If someone comes again, she says, you'll open the door? He kneels beside her bed. Yes, he says, I will. She nods, satisfied. He closes the door and stands in the hallway, listening to the house breathe. Exposure has a shape now. It looks like presence. And he knows that once you step into it, you don't get to choose who sees you, only how you stand. The meeting is scheduled for 8. Not early, not late. A time meant to feel reasonable. The man arrives 5 minutes before, as he always does. The building's lobby is quiet, polished, neutral. The receptionist looks up, hesitates for half a beat, then smiles. Good morning, she says. They're waiting for you. He nods and walks past without comment. Inside the conference room, the seats are arranged differently than before. Fewer of them. The table is the same, but the balance has shifted. Some faces are missing. Others have taken new positions. He notices who isn't there first. They begin on time. No one mentions his suspension outright. It's folded into language about temporary adjustments and organizational alignment. He listens without reacting. When it's his turn to speak, he keeps it brief. I understand the concerns, he says. I don't share them. A pause follows. Not surprised. Calculating. You've become a liability, someone says finally. Not unkindly, just directly. He nods. To whom? To the institution, the man replies. He looks around the room. Then the institution needs to decide what it's willing to protect. Another pause. We're asking you to step back, someone else says. Formally. The phrasing is careful. It avoids words like remove or force. For how long, he asks. Indefinitely, comes the answer. He nods again. He expected this. There will be a statement, the chair says. Mutual, respectful. He considers that. Will it mention my daughter? Silence. No, the chair says. Then it won't be accurate, he replies. The room stills. This doesn't have to be adversarial, someone offers. I agree, he says. It's already decided. When the meeting ends, there are no handshakes, just nods. A few looks that might once have meant something else. Outside, the city moves on without noticing. When he gets home, his daughter is sitting on the steps again, shoes off, backpack beside her. You're late, she says. Yes, he replies. He sits beside her. They watch a bird hop along the edge of the drive. Did they make you stop working? She asks. Yes, he says. Did you want to? No, he says. She leans into him. Then it's not fair. He smiles faintly. No, he says. It isn't. That night, an article appears. Short, vague. It doesn't name him directly, but it doesn't have to. The implications are clear. Sources cite concerns over judgment. He reads it once, he doesn't share it. The next morning, invitations stop coming. Not all at once. One by one. Quietly. A dinner postponed. A call unanswered. A message left on read. The loss isn't dramatic. It's cumulative. His daughter notices the change in routine before he does. You don't get dressed up anymore, she says one morning. No, he replies. I don't need to. Did you like it? He thinks. I liked what it let me do. Can you still do those things? Some of them, he says. Just not the same way. She nods, satisfied. That afternoon, he takes her to the park himself. No driver, no schedule. They sit on a bench while she climbs and swings. Another parent recognizes him. Hesitates. Then nods politely and looks away. He feels the shift clearly now. Not hostility. Distance. When they get home, the gate is still open. No sign. No guards. No watchers lingering. Inside, he checks the mail. Bills. Notices. One letter stands out. A bank. Reassessment. Terms under review. He sets it aside. At dinner, his daughter pushes peas around her plate again. Are we still okay? She asks. Yes, he says. She watches him. For real? Yes, he says again. She nods. She trusts the repetition. After she's asleep, he sits at the table with the bank letter open. He reads it slowly. Carefully, he makes notes in the margin. Not arguments. Plans. Reputation. He understands now isn't lost all at once. It erodes. And erodes leave shape behind. The world hasn't punished him loudly. It's simply begun to move without him. Outside, the gate remains open. Inside, a father learns what it costs to be seen choosing differently, and how quietly a role can be taken away once it no longer serves its purpose. The day is ordinary enough that it almost passes unnoticed. That's what makes it different. They wake to clear light. No rain. No messages waiting. The house feels settled, as if it has decided what it is now and is no longer arguing with itself about it. He makes breakfast. Eggs. Toast. Nothing complicated. His daughter sits at the table in her pajamas, feet tucked under the chair, watching him with the same quiet attention she's developed over the past weeks. You're not wearing a jacket, she says. I don't need one, he replies. She nods, accepting that answer without testing it. They eat together. He washes the dishes. She dries them carefully, lining them up on the counter the way he showed her. The routine holds. Outside, the gate is open. Sunlight hits the gravel, bright and unthreatening. They walk to the car, together. Can I sit in the front today? She asks. He hesitates, not because of the request, but because of what it represents. A small change. A marker. Yes, he says, you can. He adjusts the seat, buckles her in himself. She grins, pleased. As he drives, she rests her chin on the window ledge, watching the road unfold. The world looks the same from this angle, less controlled, more immediate. Halfway to school, she speaks. You don't get mad anymore, she says. He keeps his eyes on the road. I still do. She shakes her head, not like before. He considers that. I think I was louder. She nods. Yeah. They stop at a light. A pedestrian crosses slowly. The city breathes around them. Daddy, she says. Yes? She doesn't look at him when she speaks next. She keeps watching the street. I didn't like it when you looked small at the gate. The words are simple. Plain. Not accusatory. Not dramatic. They land fully formed. He doesn't respond right away. The light changes. He drives. She doesn't elaborate. She doesn't need to. At school, she unbuckles herself and reaches for the door. Are you coming back later? She asks. Yes, he says. She nods and pauses, one foot on the pavement. I like it better now, she says. Then she closes the door and runs inside. He stays where he is for a moment after she's gone, not replaying the sentence, holding it. At home, the quiet feels different, not hollow, clear. He moves through the house without checking the locks. He makes a cup of coffee and drinks it this time. He sits at the table and lets the morning pass without filling it. Her words stay with him, not as a wound, but as a line he won't cross again. Looked small. It reframes everything without asking for explanation. Later that afternoon, an email arrives. Another offer, another chance to step back into something familiar. Security reinstated. Reputation stabilized. Conditions attached. He reads it once. Then he deletes it. When he picks his daughter up, she talks about her day. A spelling test. A game at recess. Someone who cried and then stopped. He listens, fully. At dinner, she eats without pushing food around her plate. Before bed, she asks him to read instead of turning on his show. He does. He reads slowly. Stops when she interrupts with questions. When he turns off the light, she says, You don't look small now. He swallows once. Good night, he says. After she falls asleep, he stands at the end of the hall and looks back toward the stairs, the door, the open space beyond. The world hasn't changed its position. But he has, and because of that, the shape of everything else has shifted quietly into place. The adjustments don't announce themselves. They appear in small choices. What time he wakes up. Which bills he pays first. How long he stands in the grocery aisle deciding between two brands that used to feel interchangeable. He notices them most in the mornings. There's no calendar pulling him forward now. No assistant reminding him what matters first. The order has to come from him. He wakes before his daughter, makes coffee, and sits at the table while the house is still. The open gate is visible through the front window, a dark frame against the early light. It no longer feels unfinished. It feels intentional. When his daughter comes downstairs, she moves with more confidence than she did weeks ago. She pours her own cereal. She reaches for the milk without asking. He watches, ready to step in, but she doesn't need him to. "You're staring," she says, amused. "Just watching," he replies. They walk to the car together. No driver. No hurry. The road beyond the gate is already busy, indifferent to their routine. On the drive, she tells him about a project at school. She needs cardboard. Glue. Something that can stand on its own. "I can help," he says. She nods. "I know." At home later, he sorts through boxes in the garage. Old equipment. Leftover fixtures from renovations he once oversaw, but never touched himself. He finds a small floodlight still in its packaging. He mounts it near the back door. Tested twice. The light clicks on, bright and clean. His daughter watches from the steps. "That's new," she says. "Yes," he replies. "Is it because of the gate?" "It's because I want to see," he says. She accepts that. In the afternoon, a former colleague stops by unannounced. He stands at the edge of the drive, uncertain, waiting to be invited closer. The man steps outside. "I just wanted to check in," the colleague says. "Make sure you're all right." "I am," the man replies. The colleague nods. "You don't have to do this alone." The man looks back at the house, at the window where his daughter is visible, bent over a drawing. "I'm not," he says. The colleague doesn't argue. He leaves without pressing further. That evening, they work on the school project together at the kitchen table. Cardboard scraps. Glue drying too slowly. His daughter hums to herself, focused. "What are you making?" he asks. "A house," she says. He watches her reinforce the corners carefully. "Does it have a gate?" she thinks. "No." "Why not?" She shrugs. "It doesn't need one." He nods. He doesn't comment. Later, after she's asleep, he reviews their finances again. The numbers are tighter now. Not alarming, just real. He makes adjustments. Cancels things he never noticed before, keeps the ones that matter. He closes the laptop without feeling rushed. Outside, the gate remains open. A car passes, doesn't slow. Inside, he turns off the lights and checks on his daughter one last time. She's sprawled across the bed, one leg hanging off the side, deeply asleep. He straightens the blanket, not because she needs it, because he does. The world has narrowed, not in possibility, in focus. He no longer measures safety by how much distance he can create between his family and everything else. He measures it by how present he can be when something crosses the line. The adjustments are ongoing, they will never be finished. But for the first time, they belong to him, and he carries them quietly, without asking anyone else to approve. The offer arrives in a plain envelope, no logo, no return address. It slipped through the slot in the front door sometime between breakfast and lunch. He notices it only because his daughter points at it with her foot. "That wasn't there before," she says. He picks it up. It's heavier than it needs to be. Inside, the letter is brief, courteous, familiar in tone, even without a name attached. A private arrangement. Discreet coverage. No visible personnel. Full control retained. A way to restore what was lost without reopening what caused it. He reads it once, then again. His daughter watches him from the couch, knees tucked under her chin. "Is that about the gate?" she asks. "Yes," he says. She considers that. "Do they want you to close it?" He doesn't answer right away. He folds the letter carefully and sets it on the table. "They want to help," he says. "Do we need help?" she asks. He looks at her. She's not challenging him. She's asking the way she asks about weather, or dinner, or whether she can wear her shoes inside. "I don't know," he says. She nods. "Okay." That afternoon, a car pulls into the drive. not slowly, confidently. The driver steps out, well-dressed, holding nothing but his phone. The man meets him halfway. "I didn't schedule this," the man says. "No," the visitor replies. "But you read the letter." "Yes," the man says. The visitor gestures toward the open gate. "This doesn't have to be permanent." The man glances back at the house. His daughter is at the window, pretending not to watch. "What happens if I accept?" the man asks. "Peace," the visitor says. "Stability, privacy. And if I don't?" The visitor smiles thinly. "You keep improvising." The word lands heavier than intended. "I like to know who's responsible," the man says. "You would be," the visitor replies. "That's the point." The man nods. He thinks of the floodlight he installed himself, of the locks he checks by hand, of the nights he's answered the door without calling anyone else first. "My daughter," he says. "Would she ever have to wait again?" The visitor hesitates. "Just enough." "No," he says. "Not like before." The man hears what isn't said. He shakes his head. "Then no." The visitor looks surprised, not offended. "Just recalculating." "You're choosing uncertainty," he says. "No," the man replies. "I'm choosing visibility." The visitor studies him for a moment, then nods. "If you change your mind." "I won't," the man says. The visitor leaves. Inside, his daughter steps away from the window. "You said no," she says. "Yes," he replies. "Why?" He kneels in front of her. He doesn't rush the answer. "Because help that only works when no one sees it isn't really help," he says. She considers that. "I like when I can see you." He smiles once. "Me too." That night, he burns the letter in the sink, watches the paper curl and darken, then disappear. Outside, the gate stays open. The offer is gone. So is the last easy way back. And the choice, once refused, settles into permanence. The first thing he loses is not money, it's access. An account he's had for years locks him out without warning. A polite message appears on the screen, apologizing for the inconvenience, asking him to call during business hours. When he does, the voice on the other end is careful and firm. Policies have changed, reviews are ongoing, nothing personal. He thanks them and hangs up. His daughter watches him from the couch. "Did it work?" she asks. "No," he says. She nods. "Okay." The second loss comes later, and it's quieter. A friend he's known since before the house, before the title, cancels dinner. Something came up. They'll reschedule. He doesn't suggest another date. Neither does the friend. The man notices the pattern forming, not sharply but clearly. Doors that once opened easily now require explanation, and explanations carry weight. He no longer wants the lift. He adjusts again. He sells the second car. Cancels memberships he never used himself. Moves money where it will last longer instead of grow faster. Each decision narrows something, but it also steadies it. One afternoon, while his daughter is at school, a letter arrives from the board. Formal language. Final tone. His role is terminated. No appeal. No path back outlined this time. He reads it once, then sets it down. When his daughter comes home, she finds him in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, chopping vegetables. "You're cooking early," she says. "Yes," he replies. "Did something happen?" "Yes," he says again. She waits. "I don't have that job anymore," he tells her. She considers this. "Are you sad?" He thinks. He answers honestly. "I'm tired," he says. She nods. "Me too." They cook together. She washes while he dries. The rhythm holds. That night, while they eat, the silence presses in again, but it doesn't feel as heavy as before. It feels earned. After dinner, she brings him a piece of paper. It's a drawing. The house. The road. The open gate. Two small figures standing inside the line of the drive. No guards. No walls. Just space. She hands it to him without comment. He places it on the counter where he can see it. Later, after she's asleep, he sits alone with the letter from the board in his lap. He doesn't reread it. He folds it once and puts it in the drawer with the others. Loss has finished arriving, not all at once, but completely. The roles he once filled are gone, the buffers removed, the distance erased. What remains is narrower, but it's his. Outside, the gate is still open. No one closes it. No one asks him to. The world has accepted the cost. So has he. The morning is quiet in a way that feels earned, not empty, not watchful, just settled. The man wakes before his daughter, as he always does, but this time he stays in bed a moment longer. He listens to the house. Pipes, floorboards, the small, ordinary sounds that mean nothing is wrong. He gets up and opens the curtains. The gate is open. It has been for weeks now. Still, he notices it every morning. Not as a concern, as a fact. In the kitchen, he makes breakfast without checking his phone. Eggs. Toast. He hums without realizing it. Something unfinished and soft. When his daughter comes downstairs, she's already dressed, backpack on, shoes mismatched. "You didn't wake me," she says. "You didn't need it," he replies. She climbs into her chair and looks out the window while she eats. "No one's there," she says. "No," he says. She doesn't ask who should be. They leave the house together. He locks the door behind them. The sound is firm. Enough. At the car, she pauses. "Can I walk to the end of the drive today?" she asks. He looks at the road, the open gate, the clear line between inside and out. "Yes," he says. She walks ahead of him, unhurried, swinging her backpack lightly at her side. She stops at the edge of the gravel where it meets the pavement and waits for him to catch up. He does. They stand there for a moment, both facing the road. In Chapter 1, he stood in this place with his body angled, his hand raised, his attention split between his child and the men who would not move. Now, there is no one to address, no one to convince. A car passes without slowing. "Ready?" he asks. She nods. "Yeah." They drive to school with the windows cracked open. The air is cool. The city moves around them unconcerned. At a red light, she taps his arm. "Daddy?" "Yes?" "Are you going to work today?" He smiles faintly. "Not the kind you mean." She nods. "That's okay." At the school, she gets out on her own. She closes the door carefully. She doesn't ask if he'll be there when she comes back. She already knows. When he returns home, the house greets him without expectation. No calls. No messages waiting. The silence doesn't ask to be filled. He spends the morning fixing something small in the bathroom. A drawer that sticks. He adjusts it until it slides cleanly. At noon, he sits on the front steps with a sandwich and watches the street. People pass. Some glance his way. Most don't. A delivery truck pulls in without hesitation. The driver waves. He waves back. In the afternoon, he picks his daughter up on foot. They walk home together, stopping once so she can tie her shoe again. Slower this time, more careful. At the gate, she stops. "Can we leave it open forever?" she asks. He considers the question. Not the logistics, the meaning. "As long as we're here," he says. She nods, satisfied. Inside, she drops her backpack and sits on the floor to draw. He cooks dinner. The routine holds without effort now. At the table, they eat and talk about her day. A spelling word she got wrong, a game she didn't like, a friend who waited with her when she fell. "She didn't leave me alone," she says. He looks at her. Good. After dinner, she helps with the dishes without being asked. She dries, lines them up, and hands him a towel when his hands are wet. Before bed, she stands in the doorway of her room. "You'll be downstairs?" she asks. "Yes," he says. "Okay." She closes the door most of the way. Not all the way. He sits in the living room with the lights low. The drawing she made weeks ago is still on the counter. The open gate. The two figures inside the line. He doesn't move it. Outside, the gate remains open. No hum. No motor. Just space. In Chapter 1, the gate was a barrier that forced him to prove himself. Now, it proves nothing. It simply allows. He turns off the last light and stands for a moment in the quiet. Nothing needs to be said. The world has changed, not because it learned a lesson, but because he did. And in the open space where authority once stood, something steadier remains. Presence. Care. A father who no longer waits to be let in.